The chamber beneath the mountains was colder than most folks expected, though it wasn't the chill in the air that made the crowd restless. They had gathered here to decide the fate of a man who called himself John Fields, though most whispered another name for him, Jack. The stone walls of the underground hall carried every whisper, every shifting of feet, every anxious sigh, until the tension seemed to hum like a live wire. At the front of the room, a gray-haired woman named Martha Jo Mason stood with her hands folded in front of her. She looked proud, defiant, and just a little satisfied at the ripples of shock her testimony had already caused. The man doing the questioning, a stiff, tidy fellow named Harold Cook, fumbled with his notes. His voice wavered as he tried to keep control of the room. "Excuse me, Mrs. Mason," he stammered, adjusting his spectacles. "Did I hear you correctly? Are you saying that this concoction was given to children?" Martha chuckled softly, the sound half amusement and half bitterness. "Oh, heavens no. Not then. None of us had children back in the clutch. That came later. But when we did have babies, we realized that the salve John gave us had side effects. Lasting ones." The smile faded from her lips, her face turning somber. "Our children still carry those marks, and they deserve justice." The murmur in the gallery swelled into angry voices, and Cook had to raise his hand for quiet. His eyes were grave as he pressed further. "That is a serious accusation. Ma'am, are these children present to speak for themselves?" Martha's stern face softened into pride. "They are. Go on, young uns. Stand up now." Heads turned in the crowd as three teenagers rose slowly from the benches. One was a tall girl with dark eyes and sharper cheekbones than any sculptor could shape. Beside her stood another girl, shorter but no less striking, and between them a lanky boy with glasses slung a banjo over his shoulder. "That's my girl, Clover," Martha explained, her voice firm. "The others are Jade and Anthony friends' children. Come on up here, kids." The three moved reluctantly to the front of the room. They didn't look cowed by the councilwomen seated on the dais or by the strange beings watching from the shadows. They only looked annoyed, as if they'd been dragged into church on a hot Sunday afternoon. "Go on, Clover, baby," Martha urged. "Tell them what you told me." Clover rolled her eyes and lifted her chin. She was dressed all in black, the red buttons on her cuffs like drops of blood against the fabric. Her voice was steady and matter-of-fact. "My name's Clover Mason," she said. "Don't really live anywhere in particular. Me and my band travel around." "Your band?" Cook repeated, confused. "Yes, sir. The Bone Pickin' String Band." Cook scribbled awkward notes, then pressed on. "And where were you born?" /strong /heart. Surprised face. H. Baker's Gap, Tennessee. Mama never said who my daddy was. I tracked him down, Laterra banjo player out of Hazard. Made him teach me before he passed." Her words, delivered without an ounce of hesitation, unsettled Cook more than if she had shouted. "You mentioned gifts?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly. "What kind of gifts are we talking about?" Clover's lips twitched in the barest suggestion of a smile. "Well, I could show you, but you wouldn't want me to do it here, would you?" The chamber stirred with uneasy laughter, until the harbinger, a hooded woman who presided over all, raised her pale hand. At her signal, silence fell. The bailiff leaned in close, whispered, then straightened and struck her staff 3 times on the floor. "The harbinger will permit a demonstration." And that was when the nightmare began. Before the horrified crowd, the 3 young musicians collapsed to their knees. Bones snapped like dry branches, skin stretched and tore, and screams twisted into shrill howls. Clover and Jade shed their human forms, becoming sleek wolves with gleaming coats and eyes that still carried human fire. But Antonio, poor Anthony, did not change so cleanly. His body twisted halfway, caught between boy and beast. His hands grew too many joints. His ears stretched tall and furry, and his face contorted into a snout that was neither wolf nor man. He lay there whimpering, trapped in a living hell. Gasps echoed off the chamber walls. Some cried for mercy, others for blood. Cook, clutched the table, pale as chalk. When at last the harbinger lowered her hand, the children returned to human shape, trembling and drenched in sweat. And John Field's Jack sat with an amused smile tugging at the corners of his lips. The chamber still hummed with shock when Clover's calm voice cut through. You saw what happened to Anthony. That ain't me or Jade's doing. That's what your John Fields gave our mothers years ago. That wolf grease he passed around, it stuck to our bloodlines like tar. Cook frowned, flipping his notes with nervous fingers. So you're saying this condition traces back to your parents? Clover nodded once. Sharply. Yes, sir. You want the whole story? Then you need to hear about the Holbrooks. The gallery murmured. Even some of the beings of the green and the dark leaned closer, eager for the tale. And so it was told. Back in the rolling hills of Kentucky lived a fiddler known to every mining town and square dance from Pikeville to Knoxville, Charles Foxtrot Holbrook. His bow flew faster than a hawk's wings, and his music could set any hall alight. Folks swore no one alive could outplay him. But Foxtrot wasn't just a fiddler. He was a husband, a father, and a proud Union man. When he wasn't touring with his band, he was standing shoulder to shoulder with miners, fighting for fair wages and safer shafts. He believed a man's sweat deserved dignity. He and his wife, Marina, had two girls, Frances and Tess. Both could pick a banjo with a speed that matched their father's fiddle. And sometimes the three shared the stage together. A family united by strings and song. Life was good. Too good. One autumn evening, Foxtrot returned from a tour to find the world turned upside down. Darby and Sons Mine, the company that had long employed men of the county, had been swallowed whole by Barrow Mineral Resources, a faceless giant from up north. The ink on the papers was barely dry before promises were broken, wages slashed, and safety thrown aside. When the local union raised their voices, people began to disappear. Houses burned. Bodies were found in the woods, shredded, as if by claws too large for any mountain cat. Fear smothered the hills. Foxtrot put his wife and daughters on a train bound for Knoxville, swearing he would join them soon. But two strangers in black suits followed close behind. Instead of heading to the city, Frances and Tess slipped off the train at a lonely stop in Baker's Gap. There they met an older woman named Nessie, who offered them refuge among a secretive group known only as the Clutch. Foxtrot and Marina were never seen again. The Clutch was no ordinary family. They lived apart from the world, bound together by a strange, unnatural grease. They called it. It gave strength, speed, gifts that cut across the line between human and beast. For a time, Frances and Tess survived there. But secrets rot even the tightest bond. And when the Clutch finally fell apart, the sisters drifted once more. They carried with them more than memories. Years later, in Esau County, both married good men and tried to live quiet lives. Frances bore a son named Anthony, and Tess gave birth to a daughter named Jade. For years, the children grew up as any others might, running through fields, picking up music from their mother's hands, laughing at Sunday suppers. But blood does not forget. On Jade's 13th birthday, Tess noticed her daughter staring too long at the rising moon, her lips trembling as if to howl. And soon enough, the change came. The pain was terrible, bones reshaping, skin crawling. But with her mother's steady hands, Jade learned to endure. Locked in the woodshed for safety, she found her wolf. Anthony watched. He was younger, but he would learn, they thought. Yet when his time came, the moon found him wanting. The boy grew restless, moods swinging from storm to sunshine. His body shot up inches in a single season, strength surging until he snapped doors off hinges without trying. His mother prayed it was a passing phase. His father muttered about doctors. But when the full moon rose, they gathered in the shed again, hearts pounding, waiting for the change. And it came, but not clean. Anthony's bones stretched. His jaw cracked. His eyes bulged as if too large for their sockets. His hands sprouted extra joints. His face lengthened halfway to a snout. He fell to the ground, moaning like a wounded animal. Neither man nor wolf. Frances whispered a prayer. Jade whined in her wolf form, circling him anxiously. Then Anthony's father stepped close. laid a trembling hand on his son's shoulder. "Son," he murmured, "we'll get you through this." With a strangled roar, Anthony seized him by the throat and lifted him high. The sound of bones snapping filled the shed. His mother screamed. Jade lunged, snapping at his ankle. For a moment, Anthony's eyes flickered with recognition. He dropped his father, who crumpled to the floor. Tears glistened on his twisted face. With a sob, he burst through the door and vanished into the night. Jade howled and tore after him. The tribunal chamber was silent after Clover finished the tale. The crowd of mortals and immortals alike shifted uneasily, no longer certain whether to condemn or to pity. Harold Cook wiped sweat from his brow. So the accusation stands that John Fields is to blame for these afflictions? Clover's voice rang clear. Yes, sir. Without him, none of us would be what we are. At the defense table, John Fields leaned back in his chair, smiling faintly, as though the entire ordeal amused him. His lawyer hissed at him to keep quiet, but he only shrugged. The counsel conferred in whispers. Some demanded punishment. Others cautioned restraint. The gallery seethed, divided between cries for vengeance and calls for mercy. Finally, the harbinger raised her hand. Silence fell like a curtain. "The truth has been shown," she intoned, her voice echoing with authority. "The sins of the past are written in the blood of the present. Judgment must come, but it will not come today. The boy Anthony runs free, his fate yet unwritten. And until it is known, so too remains the fate of John Fields." The staff struck the stones. The session was ended, but the legacy of the wolf grease lived on, burning through the veins of children who never asked for it, tearing families between love and fear. And in the distance, somewhere beneath the moon, a half-changed boy ran alone through the Appalachian night, hunted by his own blood.